and still got it here?
It's a good question. I think the Warlock is going to be the big sticking point, I would imagine, for Thijs, because, you know, there's the Face Hunter, there's the Token Druid. I think those are decks that are specifically supposed to just hunt down the Warlocks. I think that'll be the big kicker. But, you know, RDU has Control Warlock of his own, right, which is generally not a deck that you want to be playing in like a Control Warlock target lineup. So I think RDU just kind of has gone with what he thinks is good decks overall. So maybe if Thijs can get over the line against that Warlock on the other side from RDU, he's going to be in a good position. But I would give the edge to Thijs to RDU overall. I love how you're mixing up the two players who actually sound alike, right? Like Yala and Wama, and I'm just mixing up two players like what? Just because they're both on the same team? Like, what's my excuse?
It's like they're wearing the same T-shirt.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna throw you off. But looking at these opening hands, although RDU has Drain Soul, Swampu's not bad, Thijs has a fantastic opening with, you know, a huge selection of choices as to how he wants to go about this, like turn 2 and turn 3 especially.
He's spoiled for choices, isn't he? I'm trying to work out like kind of what the line is for him. I've never drawn this well in my life, Raven, so I'm not used to having this many options on turn 2.
And even more now.
Yeah, even more now off this first day of school. I think just like getting the weapon down is still very efficient, or especially now when that means you get to save all of your spells for potential gibbling value as well. Because I think getting the weapon down now gives you Northwatch on 3 without expending the coin, right? Whereas if you went like Hand of Adal this turn, then your turn 3 might be coin into Oh My Yogg or something like that.
He could kind of go off this turn though, right? Which looks like is the choice, because I do like putting Hand of Adal on that 1/3, right? It makes it such an awkward minion for RDU to deal with. And also,
School Spirits doesn't actually hurt that much here either.
And neither does Hysteria, right? Like the minion still lives.
Right. Yeah, same thing. They're both 3 mana, leave your opponent with a 3/1, essentially. Yeah. So 3/1 or a 3/2 if it's School Spirits. It does mean that, like, if RDU doesn't have a decent board clear, he probably has to spend his turn shooting the 1/1 spell burst, right? Because if he doesn't have a good board clear this turn, he probably also doesn't have a good board clear next turn. That's debatable in the case of exactly Hysteria, where RDU might just sort of do some calculations here and say, well, if Thijs kind of spreads wider with the Gibbling spell burst, then I'll get a good Hysteria on the following turn.
It's an interesting point here for Thijs, where he has double Oh My Yogg in hand.
Yep.
Of course, RDU won't know that. So then it's a weird thing where obviously you don't want to have secrets in your hand as the Paladin. That's what the sword is for. But the fact that it's exactly 2 copies of Oh My Yogg, Thijs can really set them up to be as, you know, gain the biggest advantage as possible, because there are certain turns, right, that you don't want Warlock playing spells, or the specifics. Like, even going into turn 8, he could Oh My Yogg to stop a Twisted Nether, for example, and so on with other examples. But here, it's like, it's just interesting to see if RDU is going to be able to deal with this, because it also means that Avenge is very likely to get pulled in the next turn or so.
See, this is really, really strong, but unfortunately this now leaves him in a worse position against Hysteria. Obviously, we know that the secret pulled isn't Oh My Yogg because both of those secrets are in hand. But Hysteria will still leave up a minion, so if he's hit Avenge here, he will still be in a reasonably aggressive position on board.
Yeah, he's going to go Soulshare here, which I like because, as we mentioned, he doesn't know it's not Oh My Yogg, so you don't want Hysteria or School Spirits here.
Yeah, it's also a big deal if it is Avenge, right? This does 2 things. It tests Oh My Yogg, like you're saying, and then if it's Avenge, he then gets a guaranteed target to shoot the followed up Drain Soul with. And that's actually the perfect outcome with it landing on the Spellburst one as well, so he gets to take care of all the problems on the board. Really, really strong turn for RDU.
We'll fight back these brutes.
And interestingly enough now, although RDU will now know that one of those is Oh My Yogg 100%. He's not really got a great way to play around it because he just used 2 of his cheap spells last turn.
True. Doesn't just have a 5-drop to slam here. Like, generally that's something powerful that you can do as Warlock when your turn gets too difficult, right? It's just like, well, alright, I just play my 5-drop, right? I just play Ogremancer. I think RDU making the correct decision here. Now, yeah, no, see, this is the thing. I love that play from RDU. I think this is the first time I've really seen someone play the way against Oh My Yogg that I do. Like, I'm sure RDU knew that was Oh My Yogg, right? But Oh My Yogg is not counterspell. So if your option is spend 4 mana on a random spell or life tap do nothing, spend 4 mana on a random spell. Like, some good things can happen, you know?
Yeah, I think sometimes, going off what you said there, you can, some players can actually overdo it, trying to either dodge it or I have to use a cheap spell, so it's as low impact as possible. It's like, well, sometimes the big impact isn't even bad for you, so it's like, have a big impact on the turn.
And like 4 mana, good amount of AoE there. You've got Dunk Tank, you've got Consecration, you've got Holy Nova, you've got Hellfire, you've got Rancor is in there as well. Like there's a decent chance it can pop off.
Thijs has got some choices here, but I think especially after seeing Cascading, I actually like the Libram of Hope now. You've seen so much removal from RDU. You've seen a Cascading get just removed from the game, basically, because it wasn't corrupted anyway, and it won't come back from Yasharaj because it didn't actually get cast.
Right.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Just put a massive minion on the board. And RDU just going for tap. He does have Twisting Nether, but it doesn't really feel like he can just tap pass or, wants to hold on to the ooze for obvious reasons. So might have to just sacrifice this Ogre, but I guess it will just effectively heal him for 8 if you want to look at it that way.
May the light grant you peace.
Could also just play Tailin and go face if it's feeling extra spicy.
True, I don't hate that. I mean, getting to the Liadrin as quickly as possible is certainly not the worst thing in the world. And I think the biggest punish for making like greedy plays like this, where you just play a couple of chunky minions and get aggressive, is Cascading Disaster, right? Which is the card that you've just seen get discarded.
And of course, what's the fear factor here? Twisting Nether. Well, one, he has the Yogg, but two, it's like, well, even if he didn't trade and just go face, like if Twisting Nether comes down, well, you get the empty board to start again, right?
Right.
Do you get that clean Liadrin turn? He did choose to trade though, and it does allow him to get this Yogg down with the least amount of board, and of course, because Oh My Yogg is down, then the Twisting Nether is, well, I guess still playable by RDU, but not going to get the result most likely that he wants, because the 8 drops don't really consistently deal with the board, right?
They fairly consistently do absolutely nothing, is what 8 mana spells do. Yeah, you've got Guardian Animals in there, Jewel of N'Zoth in there, lots of garbage potential. You can just get like a Deep Freeze or a Cenarian Ward, which can do reasonable things for you, but there is potential at 8 mana to do literally 0, which does become a much bigger problem.
And minus a Twisting Nether, which in this matchup is pretty important. Now we hit the tricky point here. Thijs still has plenty of stuff to do. Hand of Adol, he has his Knight of Anointment as well to draw more, which is super important. And RDU is now feeling the burn, I guess, from the fact that he hasn't been able to play like the Warlock game of tapping, drawing a lot of cards, and having a ton of choices each turn, because Thijs has been so aggressive. So now he has the Twisted Nether to clear. He knows that a Liadrin will most likely be an immediate response, at least. But then what's the rest of his plan, right? He needs to start live tapping.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think I like spacing these threats out a little bit, maybe, from Thijs? Actually, I guess he's still drawing Liadrin. He's still drawing Liadrin off the top, right? If like Nether does happen, which is giving him another 2 turns of refill minimum straight after this. So I actually changed my mind. I do like playing it, yeah.
And it's also just because of what I was talking about RDU's lack of cards, like, go for the throat now, right?
Yes.
A lot of this removal's already been used. That was a good pickup with just a quick check. 3 soul fragments in the deck for RDU, so it would generate 3.
5. It's 5. Mm-hmm.
Oh, 3 have been used. Sorry, apologies. I looked at the wrong number. I am an idiot. It's fine. It would allow him to live tap as well, so maybe that's enough.
So you'd have to send 3 into the Talon, which is the big problem, right? So he would be able to take care of everything except the 1/1 on board, but he would draw his opponent the Liadrin. He would know about it, and he'd be ending his turn with a minion on board, able to attack on the Paladin side, right? Which is very scary when your opponent is about to draw their Liadrin, because you are going to get punished for that most of the time. So maybe it does just still have to be Twisting Nether.
I don't know. Like the militia allows him to life tap as well, which I like.
True. Yeah, I do like that too.
And after, even if there's, Liadrin into Libram of Hope turns, well, then you still have Twisting Nether. So I think I preferred the militia, but I can definitely understand why this was the play. And this might well just be correct as well. I've given this a lot of thought. I think he's actually, although it might look a bit silly, he's working out how many cards he's going to get from Liadrin, whether he burns, whether he needs to, whether it's more valuable for him to equip the weapon or make a minion. If he makes a minion, he actually gets to play the Libram. So yeah, there's more thought going into this than maybe you would think just looking at the hand he had to choose.
Yep, because he had double Hand of Adal and the Libram of Hope to come back, he just wanted to guarantee as many board spaces in his hand as he possibly could before he played the Liadrin. So I think, yeah, this is spot on from Thijs. And spot on from Raven, getting into our players' minds as well.
Thanks, Sado. Now, this was the plan, right? This is the payoff, I guess, for the Twisting Nether, is that he can get a much healthier looking militia, I suppose, having a little bit more way to trade off on this board.
It doesn't actually change anything, right? Because he'd play, even if he tapped first and played the Spirit Jailer and didn't draw any Soul Fragments, he'd then only have 6 faces on board, because one of them would be a Spirit Jailer. It's just amusing.
It just made you chuckle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The boy, the lad, the absolute gentleman off the top, Raven.
Yeah, and you know what? My initial eyes got drawn to Hand of Adal, but I think I like what Thijs is about to do. Buff the 4/4 and then just Libram of Justice and use Blade Master like that. And then just hit him in the face.
Love it.
Oh, Blade Master.
Oh, following it up with 15 damage on a stick as well.
He could just not even clear and go face for 5.
Oh, he gets to discount it as well for the perfect corruption. Just the outdoor attendant in hand, dropping it down to 3 so it gets corrupt by the Samurai.
And he can trade into a 1/1 as well. So even if, yes, Samurai as a 1/5 isn't a threat, but if this 8/8 gets cleaned up, there's another high health target for the Librams. Interesting spectator view here as this game looked like it was getting very close to ending. We will fix it. Boom. There we go. Magic.
Yes. Okay, he did swing. Good. It looked like he was deliberating over whether to swing there, and I think he certainly swung the weapon in that position. And he did.
Also, just so great against Hysteria that we can see as well. Like, this is just good, right? And now Thijs, RDU, sorry, I'm mixing them up now, is going to ooze the weapon just to get a minion on board and help out with this Hysteria.
Thijs with the most lethal of nods.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is a good play from RDU. It might look so, why did he use a 1-attack weapon? Well, Hysteria killed off the 8/8. Obviously, we can see Libram of Judgment, is going to just destroy him going forward. But RDU made a very good play that turn.
Oh, the juice.
It's just not stopping, is it? Yeah.
I'm going to throw the book at you.
1 mana, 15
Even
damage.
cheaper.
What a deck.
You could play the Libram of Hope as well this turn.
Yep. RDU is a 1 Twisting Nether gamer, so Thijs, having already seen it, knows that he can go all the way in.
So like RDU was raising his hand to ask a question. He's like, excuse me, is this allowed?
Miss, can I use the bathroom, please?
And never come back if this game is anything to judge by.
Yeah. This is always the deliberation, right? When you have multiple Librans in hand, is you have to sort of think about exact removal breakpoints and where they go and what's important. I've learned from the best, Fury Hunter, who is probably the best Libran Paladin player in the world, that what you do is you put them on things arbitrarily but really quickly and confidently, and then people will just assume you knew what you were doing because it's so weird otherwise.
And that was just too much for RDU. Just could not keep up. And that is honestly one of the most convincing Paladin games I've seen for a while. After the nerfs especially, like, it just looked like there was no end to the pressure there, and that's exactly what you want from Paladin. Thijs never really lost control of the board from turn 1 to the end of the game, and that is like the perfect Paladin game, right? That is goal number 1.
Yeah, and I think, you know, from Thijs' position, he never ran out of gas, he never ran out of value, he never ran out of threats in a deck that is cutting Kazakus, which I think is one of the big points. If you do want to stand Kazakus, right, I think that's one of your core arguments, is that it just gives you so much extra juice in the deck, just getting, you know, extra 5 mana golem, maybe even a 10 mana golem in some weird spots, just to be able to be like 5/5 Divine Shield, instant refill, draw 2 cards to be able to keep your hand economy good. But, you know, Thijs just didn't need any of that stuff. There's just enough stuff in the deck where if you just play good tempo turns every turn, you are going to get there most of the time.
Yeah, I do think we did see some key moments. Of course, Thijs' opening hand was fantastic, but even playing that Oh My Yogg into the Twisted Nether turn, right, it's exactly what you want to do. You broke down why, you know, what we said about playing a 4-cost spell in that situation into Oh My Yogg is not the same as playing an 8-cost spell into one, and it just completely just delayed the whole game a turn in Thijs' favor. So just a really well-played game with a really strong opening hand there from Thijs. It looks like now he is the one who's going to be playing the Warlock this game. I'm just going to quickly check what his choice will be. Oh, okay, RDU's just good at this. He's queued his Druid into this deck. Subtle.
Nice. Okay. I mean, to be fair, he didn't have many bad options, right? I guess the Hunter being banned, so he could have just ended up on the Warlock mirror, I suppose, which is the one he wants to avoid. But I think, yeah, smartly switching over to the Druid, and I think Druid is the matchup that you want. And it doesn't... You have to have played this matchup to actually understand that it's a bad matchup for the Warlock, right? Because you look at the deck list, you're like, well, double School Spirits, you know, Cascading Disaster, Twisting Nether, big taunts. Surely the Warlock can just, you know, kill everything that the Druid plays and then wall them out. No, absolutely not. As soon as there is a board that gets generated that has 3 or more health, which is, you know, Pride's Fury, Arbor Up, Power of the Wild, all of these things that are able to do that, Lightning Bloom to cheat it out early, Solar Eclipse to just, you know, pump them up even bigger than that. There's just no real cards in the Warlock's deck that interact with that unless they get like a dream Tams in hand, right, to be able to stop it. So TLDR, the Druid just goes way too fast and they make these big, aggressive, sticky boards. Haven't even mentioned Soul of the Forest yet on top of all of that, which can be the absolute heartbreaker in many a matchup against control decks.
Yeah, no one's teched in a cheeky Hellfire into their list to help out with some of those, but this is that token Druid. And for me, basically, since Fungal Fortunes was released, Token Druid is always a consideration, right? Because the fact that it gives you the option to play slower and still win games convincingly, I think is absolute key to this deck. RDU going for that guidance, and, you know, none of the card we like the best, Sol, in this deck, but still... but still looking like just a pretty solid and standard list, honestly.
I love how we apparently had the TJ reaction, because I don't know if you were watching the Americas broadcast last night, but TJ was like, yeah, so I saw Felkane win 1 game with Resizing Pouch on the Europe stream, and I immediately put it in my deck, like, this card's sick. I'm like, oh no, did we react to this like TJ did? We're probably idiots. Oh no. So I've changed my mind now. Resizing Pouch sucks.
How dare you betray us like this, Subtle?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
You've been kicked out of the fan club now. But yeah, this is going to be a tough matchup here, because just no matter which way you look at it, if you get a win with Warlock against Druid, you deserve a medal at this point, because it is just over many, many games by many of the pros, it is proven to just be a bad matchup. And even to tech against it, you would have to go so silly that you would just lose all the other matchups, right? So it is pointless. If you are expecting Token Druid and you bring in Warlock and you hit the matchup, you're expecting a loss. If you grab a win, fantastic, but that's just the way it is.
Oh, so close to just reading that out on stream, TJ.
Guide me to victory.
What did he say?
TJ is currently abusing me in Discord right now. But yeah, I think I am personally not a fan of Token Druid, just in terms of like play style. It's just not a deck I enjoy. It's not a deck I find fun. But I've generally stopped short of like criticizing playing it this week because I think the idea of soft target Warlock is a good one this week. Like that was kind of my theory coming into this before I even saw any of the deck lists. Just kind of when I saw everything that was getting nerfed, that was my initial theory craft of what lineups this week might look like. And I think Token Druid is a good part of that. So, you know, I personally am not a fan of the deck by any means, but I do think it's a reasonable bring this week.
Can't believe you didn't choose resizing pouch for that choice there, RDU. You could have recovered the opinion. But anyway, it does pick Landscaping and has it available this turn if he wants to. Could even Lunar Eclipse just to kill off the minion as well.
Yeah, I like it. Just try and build board dominance as quickly as he can early on. Get that landscaping down.
This is one card that I've just never been able to get behind, is Guess the Weight. And I think it's just because I don't think I've ever guessed it right in my life. So I think that I have a natural bias towards that card as well. But
Play Your Cards Right, by the way. I looked it up after we were finished, was the name of the Bruce Forsyth show where you tell
right, okay.
Yeah.
What a weird name, because that just doesn't make sense with the game.
Doesn't. They play
You're
zero
not playing any cards.
Yeah, I know. Dude, old school UK game shows are just the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you should all watch old school UK game shows.
Was the Conveyor Belt one UK? Or is that like a generic world?
The
kind of
Conveyor Belt one? What? Gladiators?
No.
Travelator?
It's just not what I meant. Where there's items on the conveyor belt and they have to like remember or guess the price.
Oh, Generation Game. Generation Game. Yeah, that was UK.
Gladiator.
Yeah.
Oh. It's a good show.
Sorry, Hearthstone. I actually
let's get
genuinely
back to
could
the game.
talk about UK game shows for hours, but let's not do that.
I'll tell you what does surprise me. It's kind of continuing a topic of tech cards. Is Scorpid seems to just be good at the moment. I feel like it's in every deck, and somehow it's just good.
I think it's in Priest and Warlock specifically, and I think that's smart because Hysteria exists, right? So suddenly Hysteria is 6 mana kill a guy, discover a spell, right? Like if your opponent plays one big minion, you might notice that like I don't know if you've been playing like Face Hunter a lot recently, but generally the way to beat Priest with Face Hunter is like you land Felmore and you play nothing else for the rest of the game, right? You just keep hitting them with Felmore and then just shoot damage at their face because they don't really have the tools in their deck to deal with that. That's where like Scorpid Hysteria can come in to kind of fill that gap in a deck like Warlock or Priest that has access to that card. So I think certainly in those two classes, Scorpid makes a lot of sense right now. Outside of that, I think people might be getting a little bit carried away, but certainly think it's very, very strong in those two classes.
Well, RDU is hitting that point in the game now where he has to start piecing together, okay, what's the board build plan going to go on now? He has Double Bloom, he has Soul of the Forest, which he definitely, I feel like has to look at every turn. The problem is, of course, if he does it this turn, then Arbor Up is not an option going into next turn. But he's so weak to just one School Spirits, and then what's the plan after that? Just rely on the draw of the deck?
Right. I think that's exactly why he is doing this in response, right? He understands that he just can't get swept here because his hand doesn't really allow him to. So he's just pumping up those that Soul of the Forest here and just hoping it's good enough to stick a board.
That's actually a really sick pull.
It's insane.
His face.
Full-blown stank face in response to that one, and what else can you do? And it's about to get worse because RDU's going to get hit with the School Spirits follow-up. Yep. There it is.
When I mentioned, like, the matchup is winnable, as in you will not lose every game, and if Thijs takes a win here, it will actually be incredible for his chances of making it to the final. So I was just loving watching RDU at this point.
No, that is just that turn. It was just the most I'm helping turn I've ever seen in my life. It's just you play one Muscle Cup and say go on turn 5. It's not really very powerful, is it?
Is this actually like Power of the Wild for a 3-2 and then Arbor Up with Innovate?
Is that better? So you have an extra 5/4 on board instead of giving a bunch of 3 health things 4 health and 1 2 health thing 3 health. Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah, sure. I'm on board.
Some tempo tickets, anyone?
Bad.
It's not bad, but with Soulshare and Drain Soul in hand, he can basically leave this board as 1-4-3, which seems pretty good.
Right.
Many possibilities.
And still get a tap in, which I think is still very important for Thijs, is to keep drawing cards.
Okay. Jeez.
Now, how do you...
Being Thijs.
Oh, I can't imagine that much success in one person. Ugh. Play it. He only needs to attack like 20 times and you'll get there. Now, how do you...
This is such bad news for RDU as well. This was the deck that, you know, when you have kind of a soft target, like, which it might be like even an accidental soft target with RDU's lineup. Like, I haven't heard him talk in detail. I haven't heard him talk about in detail his lineup, about whether like this is like targeting at Warlock, but he certainly has a few good matchups against Warlock, right? And if that's the case, you want to be picking up, you know, 1 or 2 wins against the Warlock. You can't just let it get out of the series at the first point of call and be 2-0 down. Like, that's an utter disaster for you.
This is a super interesting play here from Thijs. It was, of course, an option and a reasonable one. Eyebrows were raised from RDU, of course, but he still had the choice of, like, using the cascading and then having a corrupt like he did. And
sorry, Raven,
it just doesn't matter.
You're analysing the play. Actually, Thijs just knew that Sociologist was 6 cards away in his deck at that point, so he just needed
dug
to
his way down
to get to it. Yeah, that's the reality of the situation.
Tictus just put on his mining hat and just dug his way down to victory there. As
Exactly.
Thijs is just going to win this week, isn't he?
I'm starting to regret already the call that no one can possibly win 4 weeks in a row, because here we are. Thijs absolutely rampaging through right now. And, you know, just to revisit the point, I think that's a massive win. You know, I think I was one of the first people to really bang the drum of, like, not all wins in Conquest are created equal, and I think this is as big an example of that as you're ever going to get. The Warlock winning in this series, I think, you know, is worth almost twice as many wins as any of the other decks getting out, because I think that could have just been the problematic deck. And we saw that yesterday from Casey, right? In the same matchup against RDU's deck, it was the Warlock that couldn't find its way out of the series. So Thijs already being there now, I think, puts him in a much, much rosier position against RDU's lineup.
It really does. It means that Thijs only has Rogue left to go up against all 3 decks here from RDU. This is the Rogue from Thijs, and it's a list I just like. Honestly, I think this is just a very, very strong base. The question marks here are the double Penflinger. For me, I think 1 is fine if you really want to play 1. It's good to proc your Octo, but 2 might be a bit too many, but in general, a very, very strong list.
Yeah, no, I like it too. This is, you know, more or less the list that kind of Casey came out with on week 1, the one I tweeted and said, hey, look, Casey's doing something different, and he's generally been a pretty good deck builder, so you should pay attention to this. And lo and behold, I think, you know, most people have picked up the mantle of the Tenwu and Alex Straza now as time has gone on. No surprise, obviously, to see people like Tyson RDU doing it, because they are very well established of, you know, getting advice from, practicing with, preparing with Casey at this point. So I do like this list as well. I like the Alex Straza Tenwu package. If we're not going to go full Secret Rogue, which is maybe something we might experiment with. We can't even really say, like, maybe we'll see it next week now, because the format just changes so heavily, and, like, I'm not really sure Secret Rogue is a specialist deck, although what does that even mean when you really dig down into it? But if we had another week of Conquest, I think maybe we'd be seeing a lot more Secret Rogue flirting about, because there's a lot of players now putting up numbers on ladder with that deck, and even a few players saying, like, this is the deck, this is the 30 cards, like, this is the best deck in the game right now, and really, like, planting their flag behind that. So we will wait and see how Secret Rogue develops.
Yeah, I did enjoy, I think TJ said something along the lines last night on Americas of, like, oh, Sparkjoy Cheat is just the best card if you look at it, and then you go, maybe the best 3-drop. There we go. That'll keep him safe. Yeah. I was like, okay. Good save there, TJ. But let's dive in to our game number 3. And if things keep continuing how they are, maybe even the final game of this series, Sato, because Thijs going to be on that Rogue, only needing 1 more to get to the finals 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, I strongly suggest that TJ saves all of his hot takes for my glorious return this week, because he is going to need them.
How do you keeping it simple with the tap? Does have a bit of a heavy hand here. He will need, or at least I like to see early on, some of the wider AoE, mainly just that School Spirits, right? Because if Rogue does have one of those big field contact turns, normally they are quite wide with what they end up playing and very clearable. But an early Octo from Thijs is not what RD will want to see. I like the School Spirits pick up here.
Care to make a wager, friend?
Guys, just keeping it simple here. Just brain freeze onto the Scorpion. Doesn't want it messing around, and most importantly, doesn't want it to sort of dodge the frenzy effect on the Octo.
Yeah, just in case you're curious about the mechanics there, like Frenzy is defined as surviving damage. If you get hit by poison, even if it's a one attack poison, you do not survive that damage.
Yeah.
So it does not go off. But yeah, it's just basically been the story of this early game, is Thijs trying to play 2-mana Emperor Thaurissan and RDU desperately trying to not let him play 2-mana Emperor Thaurissan. Because guess what? 2-mana Emperor Thaurissan, pretty good.
I've heard that's a good card.
Yeah.
Just going to play this as Tempo and Dagger, I guess? Okay. I was wondering whether it was okay to just play Passage there. And I think I might be a little bit too easy going with Secret Passage. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to anything I like doing. I'll just play it, even if there's only three mana to do something with. Because Rogue can do a lot of stuff with 3 mana, okay? So, maybe I'm a bit too much the other way, but it's just an interesting turn there from Thijs.
This hand is not just the absolute lightly salted cashew nuts, so I'm just going to get a different one. That's the Raven attitude. I love this play, though. No reason to interact with the Ogremancer here. Just bump in, discount the hand, play Jandice for the unnerfed cost of 5, roll absolutely monstrous minions off it, as you are expected to. And now you have the choice on a Shadow Step.
Yeah, I guess I do want to talk about this choice as well for Jandice. Because you're aware that AoE is possible, is there ever normally you would make the Tiger weak because it's stealth and it probably doesn't die. But because Warlock plays so much AoE, is there actually a reason for Thijs to not pick the Tiger here and make the Tiger the strong one so it can survive an AoE this turn?
I would still pick the Tiger as the illusion myself. Firstly, you force them to AoE on a turn where AoE might just not be that good for them, right? Like, there's a 7 health minion in play. Like, AoE isn't necessarily super premium in that spot. And just, in a nutshell, right? Like, do you want to take 4 health off your minion, or do you want to take 6 health off your minion? Especially when your opponent has a minion in play that's attacking into your taunt minion, as you see here. That for me, yeah, still Tiger illusion, and Thijs agrees.
Yeah, and I guess with him having the Dagger equipped, this outcome is pretty common, where he gets to kill the Ogre.
Oh!
What makes something real?
I think I've seen this turn before, Raven.
Yeah, it's not as good.
Shadow Step the derailed coaster? Was that something that you said on air?
I hoped you wouldn't.
I can't remember what.
It was relevant.
It was relevant. Things you say. I can't remember whether they're in practice games or on air. So I just always have to clarify.
It was relevant when I suggested it.
No,
because there was stuff to trade into, right?
Do you remember last season when you wanted to Shadow Step a Frostwolf Warlord that you got off Jandice?
Yeah, it would. I'm pretty sure it would have been sick.
I think it's my favourite Raven play suggestion of all time.
Oh, it's quite the title, actually, to get. Shadow Step again, of course, on this Jandice. Not too much of a surprise here from Tyson. RDU not having the best day. Just have School Spirits again, though, so... and this isn't the strongest board, right? He can clear up most of this and maybe just save School Spirits for Jandice number 3000.
Yeah, it's true. School Spirits is just so perfect here, right? Like, the 5/5 is the real minion, right? So it's just such a clean, perfect board clear, and then you just get to play 2 1/3s in response, and then those 2 1/3s really help you out with the Jandice number 3 board.
It's true.
So I really like going about it this way. Tenwu off the top? Close. All right.
What makes something real?
Oh,
Well, Penflingers can come in handy here, Sol.
they sure can.
And I'm pretty sure Thijs isn't going to value the health on this taunt minion.
You can guarantee 5 health to face, 5 damage to face here if you really want to. It's not a pretty play, but if you really want to do it, it's not, doesn't really use any significant resources.
With 15 cards, yeah, I was going to say, with 15 cards on his deck, because Thijs hasn't drawn a field contact, I really like the rigged fair game there. There is also always some argument to just an extra 8/8 in your deck, but yeah, I like the rigged fair game from him.
Alright, it's just going to lead out with the Penflinger, see what happens. It's the minion. Brain freeze, yeah.
I think I've said this before, but that card I think is so close to just being playable.
The 5/6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think
it's very close.
I think Orange. I think the first deck Orange built post nerf was like a mid-range Demon Hunter that had 2 of those in it. So you know, clearly he's with you there somewhere. Maybe he came to the conclusion after playing it that it's unplayable. Who knows? But he certainly had the same thoughts at some point.
Either you should tempo Ticketus just to keep it even in this series. Actually, looking at this, so it's going to be Strongman or Militia, right, from the tail-in?
Yep.
Oh, good Hysteria, though.
Yep. Cleans
Or
up perfect.
potentially, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. So he had 3, right?
Because of the illusion, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the juice. Gonna go digging 1 turn with Secret Passage. Seems reasonable. There's that field contact set up now for the long term. Kazakus here is fantastic. Second field contact is fantastic as well. Options now out the wazoo.
Or even just
Choose
like...
to go field. You can go field contact Kazakus 1 mana golem, or you can go like one maker Kazakus.
Yeah,
I kind of like 1 maker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is just more stuff, and it allows you to do a setup, right? 3 minions, he can have the choice of the 5-cost golem if he feels it, and then it makes RDU have to clear the board again, right? Because he knows if he doesn't, and +2/+2 comes down, well, suddenly, he's in a lot of trouble.
Agreed.
Are we just going to see a 1-cost? We're not.
Nope.
That's 2-cost, definitely.
2 cost. Yeah, new breed of go.
Second option, 2-cost, same thing. Nice, so Sinister Strike in there to go with this Wicked Stab. Alex Straza Tenwu combo, you know, he's kind of knocking around at some point.
Yep.
RDU has done a good job of not losing control of this, though, because let's be honest, he survived 3 Jandice and he's on 36 health. Like,
Right.
you know, my hat goes off to him there because that is a tough thing to manage.
He is very comfortably in control, and Thijs is going to be looking for prize plunder, and that's exactly what he's managed to pick up here. So he can start to pick apart this board. Unfortunately for him, he has 0 Shadow Step left in his deck because of his usage on the Jandice earlier. So again, you guys know the drill by now. If we eliminate the Wicked Stabs, they're currently bugged on our tracker. You can see the remaining cards he has in his deck. No Shadow Steps there is the big one. He might need a 1 Thief for some decent removal here to be able to get out of this game, but can solve this problem at least short term with the Poisonous Golem that he does have in hand already. Okay.
I'm wondering if this is a good turn for Rigged, actually, and play just a little bit slower. Like, Thijs has 7 armor, right? He can take a hit from this Alex, even if it does hit face.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right, with playing Rigged Fair Game, is that I think he is getting domed this turn. I think Warlock, with their, infinite power and knowledge, have the ability to clear 3 minions and hit you in the face with an 8/8 this turn, and I think that's what RDU is likely to do. I don't know how much benefit that card gives him, but I also... Having spent 5 mana on the Golem, you don't really want to do anything else this turn, right? Like, once you've spent 5 on the Golem, it's not your field contact turn, right? So you're just going to kind of sit there and deal with it.
It does make him think about what this secret is now, because he'll find out it is in fact not Mirror Entity.
Yes.
But he doesn't have much choice to do anything but cascading, I feel here. Oh, gets in the Asheraj pool.
He has Yasharaj for the full follow-up now. That is a very, very juiced Yasharaj. Wicked Stab upgrading. I believe we can check in again. 4 cards remaining. Again, I believe that is just 1 Wicked Stab in there with 1 in his hand, but the rest of it is accurate. So he does still have a good chunk of damage built up, but with no Shadow Step, no Tenwu, since Tenwu did get burned away. Struggling to see a route to put together 32 damage here from Thijs' side.
And it is one of the issues when Thijs, I think, this game has drawn the field contacts relatively late, right? We only saw them like way past halfway through his deck.
Yep.
Thijs actually going to try and play for board at this point, which is really his only choice. Yep.
Yeah, and
it's going to be shut down.
I have the single best board card in the game. That's dead. You have no more cards. I've just played like 40-40 of stats this turn. Like, just get out of my game.
Thijs there, just going to double check that Penflinger can't go face.
Yeah.
Are you probably laughing that... Oh, he's laughing at the Rig Fair game, right?
Yeah.
Thijs going to go out in an honourable fashion, I think, with double field contact Penflinger? No? Oh, we just wanted to call him a loser.
He just wanted to call him a loser. That's great. Good job, Thijs. I thought when he picked it up, he was going to find some way to, like, dig through the 6-6 taunt so he could weapon the 10-10, right? Like, that was going to be his way to go out. But no, just one hey loser, and then I'm out. That's all he wanted. Yeah, fantastic. Good stuff.
Well, it does mean RDU gets a point on the board, right? And this series, of course, will continue, and it's going to be Thijs' Rogue once again, with RDU's Rogue or his Druid to go with here. But this is something I think that came up in testing when we were playing Rogue, where I hold on to my Shadow Steps for like the big combo in these kind of matchups, maybe more than I should. But it is one of the issues where it's unlikely that RDU could have cleared 3 Jandice, but he did. Therefore, I think that was really the point that lost Thijs the game. Not saying he shouldn't have done it, but you know, it kind of removed the whole like, okay, a couple of big burst turns with Alex Straza.
Yeah, I agree. But he did is definitely the kicker there.
Yes.
But you're very much entitled to believe that they can't. I think Thijs, played that game very reasonably. It's just, to be fair, like in America's like Language Hackers series and a couple of the draws that we've seen here, we've seen a lot of bad Control Warlock draws where it's 7, 8, 10 in the opening hand and all that kind of stuff. That's what happens when Control Warlock draws its deck in the right order, right? When they draw all the 1-drops and every removal spell first, then they draw into Ticketus Yasharaj after that. Very few things in the game beat that. It's just kind of what happens when what is a very, very greedily built deck does actually get punished for some of that greed. That's when things like, Token Druid and Rogue can potentially find their way underneath. But, that draw still exists for RDU, and I think he executed it very, very nicely. I think he parceled out his resources really nicely. I think he recognized the, Hysteria clears where they were available. I think, his sequencing of, he understood he was going to have to deal with a Jandice every turn for multiple turns when he kept seeing it getting Shadow Step. And I think the way he chose to allocate his resources to dealing with the average number of stats that was going to come down was very, very nice. I think it was a well-deserved win on the side of RDU.
Yeah, and now starts the comeback for RDU here, as he's going to be going up against Thijs' Rogue again, but now with the Druid. And what do you make of this matchup, Sol? Because Rogue has, I think, lost some of its bite because of maybe a lack of backstab, for example, in Rogue lists now against Druid. But Rogue still has Plunderers, still has the ability to actually either generate or just draw enough cards to keep up with Druid. But is it really just going to be about one big board here for RDU?
Not necessarily. I think 2 big boards is a better way of looking at it. One big board, Thijs can get there because he should curve out with a couple of minions early, right? Particularly if he gets Octobot, which is the absolute nuts in most situations. Neophyte is great here, can slow RDU down a little bit, especially after that Nature Studies. And then when the first big board happens, usually Rogue can go minion trade, you know, Pen Flinger, Prize Plunderer, right? And then that clears up the first board that's been made, like the first Glowfly Swarm, the first like Gibbling board maybe that's been made on like turn 3 or something. If after that you can just straight away again just go like Fate Glowfly Swarm again and just make a whole new board, that's generally when the Rogue has run out of answers to deal with your stuff.
Okay, well, Thijs off to a good start, but RDU having all the resources in his hand after this Fungal Fortune, so he can plan that sort of back-to-back board creation that you were talking about, right? As opposed to, say, you know, the earlier Druid game he played where he made one board, it got wiped, and then he had nothing to do after the fact.
Right. Imagine he hit on that. Yep. I think generally when you hit 2, saying higher is correct. You know, we've talked a lot about how most of the decisions end up being quite 50-50 in this point, but generally if you don't have a Gibbling hand, the more expensive spells are the more impactful spells. So the ones that you want to have in your hand, right? So if there's no actual stats to split the difference on more or less, I think generally you should pick more because those are the more impactful spells to have in your hand.
Here, though, I think RDU is just okay with a burn, right? He has like triple. Oh, he wants to bloom. Okay. I guess if he doesn't want to do anything next turn anyway.
Couldn't he have done... I mean, he could have done a lot next turn.
Yeah.
I guess he still can do quite a lot next turn.
Well,
still 2 blooms available.
I think the issue as well is that he doesn't have a board generator, right? He doesn't have a Gibbling. He doesn't have the Glowflies.
Oasis Surger was available as an option, not actually sure what Thijs picked there, but he certainly had Oasis Surger as a possibility if that's what he's ended up picking up.
RDU seemingly happy to take it slow. Like I said, I think he's after Gibbering or Glowfly or something, right? He wants to like have the easy way to build the board and then have the insane power of like a double Arbor up or, you know, Primal Fury. Just whichever's irrelevant at the time.
Yeah, love this. Rush Summon a copy. That's what I'm referring to when I say Oasis Surger, and I also love this decision because whether they have Rush or whether they don't, just get your 5/5s on the board and just ask the Druid to deal with it.
It's just saying a lethal, right, as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big thing. It's just set up lethal. And RDU, I guess, you know, you could say punish for the maybe too slow approach to the game when he has double bloom in hand. He could have had minions on board in a different way, but it looks like, wow, just like that, that's going to be easy. A shake of the head and another head there from Thijs. And that is going to be the series. Thijs, once again, second week in a row, making it to the finals. Pretty exciting series overall, Soto. But that last game, maybe just a bit of a, you know, strange way to end the series overall.
It was, yeah. It was a weird decision to bloom there, to slow down his development by a whole turn. You know, just to not take a burn, right? Because his hand did so much with like 6 extra mana available from Lightning Bloom on the following turn. Whether you ever would have been in a world where you did like triple Lightning Bloom and literally like skipped your next turn, I don't know. But it did also seem like he had all the tools he needed in hand. Maybe he just really wanted that space to open up, like you said, Glowfly Swarm or Gibbling.